We're back in Death Valley, California.
Leave today and enter the world of Randomland.
Yes, friends, we are here at Death Valley, the hottest recorded place on Earth. Not to look at rocks and dirt, of which there are plenty, but to look for one of the most epic things we have ever looked at together on this channel or any other, Star Wars filming locations. You see, friends, decades ago, in a desert far, far away, Star Wars was captured on celluloid film, later to be projected in beautiful Technicolor on screens all over the world. And back in the VHS days, a young Justin Scard saw Star Wars for the first time, and forever would it dominate his destiny. Finally, there would be peace in the galaxy. Eventually, young Justin grew up into a taller young Justin and started filming himself in theme parks and other weird places, and dreamed of one day traveling to Tunisia, where Star Wars was filmed, to share the adventure with all of his internet buddies. Sadly, Tunisia is a bit far away, but what if young Justin, who's me obviously, could show you pieces of the Star Wars universe right here in America, and better yet, right here in California? Well, that's exactly what we're going to do. Ladies and gentlemen, princesses and scruffy nerf herders, follow me into one of the harshest environments on Earth as we visit Tatooine from Star Wars. Our first Star Wars location is located at the Mesquite Sand Dunes here in Death Valley, and it's one of the earliest scenes in the movie where C-3PO and R2-D2 first crash land on Tatooine, and they're having that argument on top of the sand dunes over which way they should go. C-3PO wants to go one way, and R2-D2 wants to go another way. C-3PO says, "I'm not going that way. It's much too rocky." And R2-D2 does whatever he wants and takes off towards the mountains. Well, friends, those mountains are right here. Now, most of that scene was filmed on top of giant sand dunes in Tunisia, but the very last shot of R2-D2 taking off towards the Rocky Mountains was filmed right here in Death Valley. You can see the familiar silhouette and shape of the mountains in the background are exactly the same as they were in 1977 when R2-D2 headed that way. Now, obviously, the sand dunes themselves have changed a lot in the past 37 years, but that mountain range is exactly the same. It's really just a few brief seconds of footage captured here, probably because the original radio-controlled R2 units didn't work all that well, especially in Tunisia in the desert, so a lot of little extra scenes with R2-D2 in particular had to be grabbed in Death Valley after the fact. But let's not forget, this is Star Wars. This is a movie that changed movies for all time. So even though it might just be a brief couple of seconds of film, there are people like me to whom Star Wars means so much, who are definitely willing to come quite a great distance just to take a look. Much like R2-D2, we also must travel towards the rocky sides of Death Valley to see the next few scenes from Star Wars. After leaving C-3PO stranded on the sand dunes trying to wave down a transport over here, we next catch up with R2-D2 cruising down this little wash, this little canyon, which you can see in real life in Death Valley from the Artist Palette parking area. Just step up over the hill behind the restrooms. Obviously, the lighting is different, and erosion has had its effect in the last 37 years since they filmed Star Wars, but you can still line up the canyon walls and see where R2-D2 headed deeper into the canyon towards those Jawas and towards certain destruction? Question mark? And of course, there's one more little snippet filmed from on top this little rocky embankment where the Jawas are peeping down at R2 and he's looking up like, "Yes? Can I help you?" To save money and time for the first Star Wars film in particular, several pickup shots were filmed right here in Death Valley, and that's what we're looking at. What is a pickup shot, you ask? Sometimes when a movie wraps and a filmmaker starts to see the finished product coming together, it becomes obvious that certain things could have been done a little better. If they reshoot an entire scene, it's called a reshoot. If they just needed a few extra shots of scenery, it's called B-roll. And if they need a short scene with actors used to change or enhance what they already have, it's called a pickup shot. As luck would have it, Death Valley was home to plenty of pickup shots from the first Star Wars movie in particular, So strap in, because the rest of these scenes are going into hyperdrive. Now interestingly enough, not only are the scenes with R2-D2 and the Jawas being cut between the artist's palette shots and shots in Tunisia, but also with another canyon just up the road here in Death Valley, where there are a lot of Jawa hidey holes. So you take one of the most beautiful drives of your life from Artist Palette to Golden Canyon nearby, and there you will find the land of the Jawas. It's only a short distance inside Golden Canyon before you start seeing scenes where R2-D2 came around the corner. Right here, you can still tell by the striations in the rock, which haven't really changed over time, even though the roadbed has, with flash floods and erosion and all that other usual fun stuff here in Death Valley. And just beyond that bend on your left as you enter Golden Canyon is what I like to call the creeper crack. 3 different shots are centered around this one crevice. First you have the Jawa peeking around the corner at R2-D2. Creeping like a Jawa. Next you have some falling debris from this area here, lands right here. And then from a vantage point up there, past these rocks, we see R2-D2 going along by. Pretty easy for those Jawas to find R2. Now if only those Jawas could find my voice for me. And just 50 feet past the creeper crack is another little crack for Jawas to creep on you from. Here's the Jawa's eye view. You can see where the sharp part was only very recently broken off, perhaps by some evil Sith Lord trying to keep it for himself. For shame. Here was the Jawa's hidey hole. Alas, the rock has since fallen over the entrance, thus rendering this cave now Jawa free. Here was the site of the massive Jawa sandcrawler. In that brief clip, you can see little Jawas carrying R2-D2 towards their massive sandcrawler on the horizon here. The only thing was that was actually a little bit of a trick, because that massive sandcrawler was actually about a 3 to 4 foot remote control model, which actually was sitting right about here. It's a Hollywood trick of the trade called forced perspective, and rather than having to have a massive vehicle sitting out here, they merely set the miniature down on this hill and lowered the camera. What kind of wizardry is this? Add in a few Jawas in blue screen carrying R2-D2 and the effect is complete. I should say that several websites online have several competing theories as to exactly where the sandcrawler model was placed, but I think that coming just from the parking lot where they filmed those other 2 scenes with R2-D2 and shooting on these little hills is the simplest explanation. It lines up rather neatly, so according to Occam's razor, I'm going to go ahead and for myself say that this was the location. Here is another fantastic Star Wars filming location. Just at the mouth of Desolation Canyon is the spot where the Tusken Raiders mounted their mighty bantha steed, which of course in real life was an elephant covered with a furry costume. Unlike some of the other shots, which were clearly making up for the fact that the droids didn't work on set in Tunisia, these shots made a lot more sense to film in California, as it was probably easier to transport and costume a real-life elephant near to Hollywood and the center of the film industry than it would be to transport one all the way to Tunisia and dress it up out there and then worry about animal behavior. But this is still a pretty crazy location because we are over a mile from the nearest road, which means they had to get the elephant all the way out here and all their camera equipment to film the shots. It's hard to believe I'm standing where a bantha stood. Does that mean I'm also standing where Bantha Poodoo stood? The only way you really know you're in the right spot is by lining up the shape of the hills here. You get just the right angle and you can tell that this is where the bantha was, and the Tusken Raiders running to get on the bantha to go and catch up with Luke Skywalker and his droids and basically do the Star Wars version of a carjacking. So, crime. Just a little further up the canyon, just before you get to this thing, is a little eroded piece of a hill that is very important in the Star Wars universe, because this is the hill from which the Tusken Raider jumped and air-mounted his bantha. Right here. I'm a sand people! I'm a sand people! Hey, you watch your mouth with that sand people talk. That's our word. Only we can say that. One more shot from Desolation Canyon. Even though Mark Hamill, aka Luke Skywalker, is in fact in Tunisia looking through his little binoculars, when he looks through the binoculars, somehow he's looking halfway around the planet here, back in Desolation Canyon, where the two banthas were located, somewhere just in front of that big red rock, which looks exactly the same as it did in 1977, although the little cliff face in front of it has clearly eroded quite a bit. At one time, it used to look a lot more like this wall here, which is all just basically loose dirt. So erosion and rain, the little bit of rain Death Valley actually does get, has clearly had its effect over time. Okay, I know I said there's lots of erosion, but guys, this is where the banthas were. The banthas were right here. Star Wars. They filmed it right here. Right here. Now, even though Alec Guinness, aka Obi-Wan Kenobi, Mark Hamill, aka Luke Skywalker, and the droids were filmed on the cliff in Tunisia looking out over Mos Eisley, the view they're looking at was filmed right here in Death Valley at Dante's View. Look at that. Mos Eisley would have been located right down there. You will never find a more wretched hive of scum and villainy. And tourists, because it's a really nice view. Dante's View / Mos Eisley Spaceport. I am sitting in Tatooine. Bucket list accomplishment. Check. Awesome. Even Indiana Jones is interested. Wait, which means if we come all the way back down here, we're pretty much standing right about where Mos Eisley should be. We did it. We made it to Mos Eisley. In addition to all the pickup shots for the first Star Wars movie, they also filmed a scene in Death Valley for Return of the Jedi, because of course Luke Skywalker goes back to Tatooine to rescue Han Solo from none other than the evil Jabba the Hutt, whose palace would have sat right back there. In the beginning of the movie, we see C-3PO and R2-D2 headed down this arroyo towards Jabba's palace, which was really just a matte painting, a piece of special effects in the background. There was no actual palace here. And, of course, we saw them walking along this road, having a conversation. If you look closely, you can even still see that groove right there that was behind 3PO's head, right here. Still in Death Valley. Interestingly enough, when they were filming their conversation, C-3PO and R2-D2 weren't actually pointed towards the palace, but actually walking the other way along this ravine. And in the very last frame of their conversation, you can actually see this weird rock formation in the background. Cool. Well, the sun is going down on Death Valley, and that means we are just about out of time. Thank you for joining us on this adventure to see some of the scenes of a galaxy far, far away, right here close to home in Death Valley, California. Make sure to subscribe to this channel for some more wacky video adventures, and check out our website, LiveFastDiePoor.com, and we'll see you guys in Randomland. Bye-bye! Star Wars! Wonderful Star Wars! I can't believe it! They filmed it right here. I am never leaving. Probably a stormtrooper. Oh look, there's a Folgers can with like a quote-unquote golden spike in it. Must be the center of Disneyland right here in Death Valley. Wow. videos. They filmed a little piece of Star Wars right here.
Uh-huh. Oh, this is the place.
Yeah. So you're less winded than I am. What happened? Who knew that a desert sand dune area would be so hot, right? Who knew? Whew. Old ladies. Less of a wuss than me. I also have a bigger purse than her. So, it's cool. I'm comfortable with it. And suddenly in the Jawas Canyon, we happen upon some Asian churchgoers. I loved your park. Sorry your dinosaurs got loose. Whoa. Not gonna lie, all of this makes me very, very nervous. Not a big fan of heights, but such a big fan of Star Wars, I don't even care right now. Yeah, that's a spiky plant. Woo, ouch. Desert. C-3PO and R2-D2, right here. They were like brothers, and we are literally brothers. Yeah. So, it's good that we're here together. Special thank you to Adrian Fontaine for donating money for this video adventure. Also to my brother Seth for being here on the video adventure. And for you for watching the video adventure. Maybe we didn't get all the shots that they shot here for Star Wars. I'm not 100% sure. Maybe some will come after us and do it better. And if you do, make sure to give us a shout. Go over to LiveFastDiePoor.com. Get in touch with us because I'd like to see your video as well. Star Wars and Death Valley. We've done our duty. Now it's time to go home and sleep well. Let's get Seth in the mix.
Oh, dang it, we're getting bonuses.